Brad Pitt, the man once hailed as Hollywood's eternal leading man, had it all. Fame, fortune, and the woman the world couldn't stop talking about, Angelina Jolie. Together, they weren't just a couple, they were an empire. Brangelina wasn't a romance, it was a global phenomenon. But as the world applauded their red carpet perfection, few realized the cracks that were beginning to form behind those blinding flashes of fame. It all began on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith in 2004, a film that blurred the line between fiction and reality. Brad Pitt was still married to Jennifer Aniston, America's Golden Girl, while Angelina Jolie stood on the opposite end of the spectrum, mysterious, fearless, and unapologetically herself. What began as acting soon became something else entirely. Their chemistry wasn't just scripted, it was magnetic, dangerous, and impossible to disguise. When the cameras stopped rolling, the connection didn't. And by 2005, Brad's marriage was over, and a new chapter in Hollywood history had begun. But was it love, or destiny rewriting itself? For a while, it seemed like love had conquered all. 6 children, humanitarian missions, and a shared vision of changing the world. Brad and Angelina became more than just a couple, they became a global brand of love and purpose. Together, they walked red carpets and war zones alike, balancing fame with compassion. Yet behind those perfect images, cracks had already begun to form, quiet, invisible, but real. How long could they carry the weight of being Hollywood's perfect pair before it started breaking them from within? In the early years, they were untouchable. They built homes in France and Cambodia, adopted children from different corners of the world, and gave interviews that painted a portrait of unity and purpose. To millions, they weren't just actors. They were icons of a modern family, living proof that love could thrive under the brightest lights. But fame has a way of testing what love can endure. As Angelina's humanitarian work deepened, her focus shifted outward, to the world, to causes, to justice. Brad, meanwhile, poured himself into art and filmmaking, chasing stories that reflected his own restlessness. Were they growing together, or growing apart without realizing it? Sources close to them described their home as full of love, but also full of tension. There were mornings of laughter and family breakfasts, followed by evenings that echoed with quiet distance. Angelina's heart was often somewhere else, in war zones, hospitals, refugee camps. She carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. Brad, meanwhile, was fighting his own internal storms, pressures of fame, fatherhood, and the haunting fear of losing control. In interviews, he spoke of trying to find peace in noise, while Angelina confessed that there are challenges when 2 strong people share one life. But were those words quiet warnings of what was coming? Still, they held it together, for the children, for their image, for the love they had once fought the world to protect. They smiled for cameras, attended premieres arm in arm, and shielded their private struggles behind the illusion of perfection. Yet behind every red carpet photo, there was distance, small moments of silence that grew longer each year. The cracks were invisible to outsiders, but inside their home, something sacred was slowly slipping away. How long can love survive when it's being lived under constant scrutiny? Then came the day that changed everything. September 2016. A private jet from France to Los Angeles. What should have been a quiet family flight became the storm that ended Hollywood's golden couple. According to reports later obtained by the FBI, a heated argument broke out midair, voices raised, emotions raw, children caught in the crossfire. The exact truth of what happened that day remains shrouded in secrecy. Angelina claimed Brad's temper spiraled during the flight. Brad denied any physical harm, admitting only that anger got the best of him. But by the time the plane landed, the damage was irreversible, not just to their marriage, but to the image they had built for over a decade. Within days, Angelina filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. The world was stunned. The couple who once defined modern love had fallen apart in silence. Brad released a brief statement asking for privacy, while Angelina said nothing, her silence echoing louder than any public confession ever could. But was that silence heartbreak? Or closure? The investigation that followed brought no criminal charges, But what it left behind couldn't be measured in reports or documents. It left something heavier: silence, distance, and scars that only time could reveal. Their once perfect family, once the symbol of unity and compassion, was suddenly split into two worlds. Hollywood speculated endlessly, but the truth remained sealed within the cabin walls of that plane. What really happened up there, and why did it change everything? In the years that followed, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's lives moved in completely different directions. There were no reconciliations, no tell-all interviews, no grand public explanations, just the deafening quiet of two people trying to rebuild in their own ways. Brad, once the golden boy of charm and confidence, began to look different: older, quieter, and more human. In rare interviews, he spoke not as a movie star but as a man who had faced himself. He admitted to losing control, to drinking too much, to hurting people he loved. It wasn't a confession for sympathy, it was a mirror held up to regret. But was this the beginning of redemption, or just the weight of guilt finally surfacing? In 2019, during a brutally honest interview with GQ, Brad said, "I can't remember a day I didn't drink. I had taken things as far as I could take it." It wasn't rehearsed, it was raw truth. Meanwhile, Angelina's response wasn't through words, but through action. She withdrew from the noise, devoting herself to her children and her humanitarian missions. When asked about the split, she said simply that she did what was necessary for the well-being of her family. No anger, no bitterness, just resolve. Brad sought healing in art, recovery, and reflection. Angelina found hers in strength, motherhood, and silence. Their custody battle became a slow, public echo of two private lives trying to redefine peace. And even as the years passed, their connection, strained but unforgettable, remained a shadow that followed them both. Did Brad ever truly forgive himself? Or did Angelina's silence become the final word in their story? Brad found redemption not in another love story, but in sobriety, art, and reflection. He once said, "You can't have everything. You can't be everything." Those words carried a tone of acceptance, maybe even quiet heartbreak. His regret wasn't just about losing Angelina. It was about realizing how fame, pride, and pain can break even the strongest hearts. Angelina, on the other hand, chose privacy. Her silence became power, an unspoken boundary that said, "I don't need to explain my pain to the world." She continued raising her children, advocating for refugees, and standing for women's rights, her actions speaking louder than words ever could. Their story, once Hollywood's golden fairy tale, became something deeper, a reminder that love isn't always enough when the world around you demands perfection. Sometimes, silence is healing, and sometimes regret is the price of lessons learned too late. In the end, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's story isn't one of villains or victims. It's one of evolution. Two people who once shared everything, now defined by silence, distance, and lessons carved by time. Love may fade, but its echoes, the regret, the silence, linger forever. If stories like this make you see fame and love in a new light, don't forget to subscribe. We uncover the untold truths behind celebrity lives, where emotion meets reality. Like, comment, and stay tuned for the stories Hollywood doesn't want you to remember.